A preteen girl entered a biker clubhouse carrying fundraising chocolate and clinging to a slim chance. Moments after, she collapsed to the ground. The events that followed went beyond simple aid. They sparked a transformation throughout the entire town. This tells the tale of Marley. The sweltering Saturday bore down on Black Rain MC's headquarters with an unbearable intensity. The struggling cooling system fought against the summer warmth while Mahoney reviewed financial documents at the counter, his spectacles slipping toward his nose tip. In a distant corner, Chainsaw and Ghost engaged in a card game, speaking in hushed, relaxed tones. From the cooking area, Mama Joe's humming of classic blues melodies drifted out, accompanied by her chili's aroma permeating the entire space. The entrance door groaned. Initially, nobody paid attention. Visitors frequently dropped by, package carriers, acquaintances, confused travelers seeking the nearby restaurant. Then a timid, uncertain voice broke through. "Pardon me." Mahoney lifted his gaze. A child appeared in the entrance, illuminated from behind by intense sunshine, thin, approximately 12 years old. A too large charcoal sweatshirt draped over her small body as if borrowed. She gripped a crumpled sheet and a deteriorating cardboard container. "We're selling chocolate bars," she murmured, almost inaudibly. "It's for our school. $1 apiece." Chainsaw made a dismissive sound that resembled rejection. Ghost remained focused on his cards. Mama Joe emerged briefly from the cooking area, drying her palms on her apron, but remained silent. The young girl remained motionless, frozen. Her grip on the container whitened her knuckles. Mahoney placed his writing instrument down. The girl wobbled somewhat, appearing unsteady. He recognized these signs from his emergency medical training. Lack of fluids, extreme tiredness, insufficient nutrition. "Are you all right, youngster?" he inquired, rising to his feet. "I'm okay," she responded rapidly. Excessively rapid. Would you like to purchase any? They're excellent quality, either caramel-filled or almond." She moved one step ahead, then another. Her foot stumbled over nothing and abruptly she lost her balance. Eyes turning upward, container dropping from her grasp. "Damn!" Mahoney leaped across the counter. The girl struck the hard floor severely, her skull bouncing once before Mahoney reached her. Playing cards flew as Ghost and Chainsaw sprang up. Mama Joe moved with surprising speed for her years. "Turn her sideways," Mama Joe commanded sharply, kneeling down. Mahoney, examine her heartbeat. His digits located her throat. Weak, rapid, irregular. Her heart's racing. Her breathing's insufficient. When did this child last consume food? Mama Joe demanded of nobody specifically, then examined the girl's appearance. Colorless lips, dry and split. "Good Lord, this baby's malnourished." Sawyer rushed through the rear entrance, wearing his grease-covered clothing. "What on earth occurred?" "Fetch nourishment immediately," Mahoney instructed. "The restaurant beside us. Broth, fruit drink, something gentle. Hurry." Sawyer departed before another word could be uttered. The girl's eyelids trembled. A quiet groan came from her mouth. "Hello, dear," Mama Joe said tenderly, sweeping strands from the girl's brow. "You're fine. You're protected. Can you perceive me?" Her eyes parted, unclear and panicked. She attempted to rise. "Whoa, take it slow," Mahoney said, supporting her upper body. "You lost consciousness. Simply breathe momentarily." "My chocolate," she breathed, searching desperately. "I released it. I apologize. I'm terribly sorry. Disregard the cursed chocolate," Chainsaw grumbled, though his tone was gentler than typical. Mama Joe directed a look his way, then faced the girl again. "What do they call you, sweetheart?" "Marley." Her voice fractured. "I didn't intend to. I simply needed to sell sufficient quantity for the scientific expedition outing. However, I lacked funds to purchase the container initially. Therefore, I borrowed one from my companion's supply and planned to reimburse her. Promise. However, then I experienced dizziness and..." She spoke excessively rapidly, words flooding out like a barrier crumbling. "Decelerate," Mama Joe said sternly. When did you consume nourishment today? Marley gazed at the ground. Last evening's meal. My sibling Kendra performed a 16-hour shift. Therefore, it's acceptable. I'm accustomed to it. The space became silent aside from the cooling system's hum. The quietness extended. Ghost repositioned in his seat. He rarely spoke, however, when he did, it carried weight. How many years have you lived? 12. Where are your guardians? Mahoney inquired cautiously. Marley's eyes moistened. My mother passed 8 months prior. Illness. Currently, it's solely Kendra and myself. She's 23. She performs 2 occupations, however, it remains inadequate. And I chose not to request funds from her for the outing since she's already contributing enormously. And I believed if I could simply sell adequate chocolate bars. The words melted into soft crying. Sawyer came back with a container from the restaurant. Mama Jo extracted a vessel of poultry broth and a container of citrus juice, opening it and placing it into Marley's shaking palms. Consume this. Take small amounts. Marley complied, tears flowing down her features between swallows. Marley remained absent from the clubhouse for 3 days. Mahoney observed this. Ghost did as well. Despite not acknowledging it verbally, Tuesday evening, Sawyer summoned a church, their required gathering, and the inquiry lingered in the smoke-filled atmosphere before anyone voiced it. Are we taking action regarding the child or not? Chainsaw reclined in his seat, limbs folded. Already addressed the outing expense. $200 to the Educational Institutions Administrative Center this dawn. Nameless contribution. That's insufficient. Ghost stated quietly. Everyone pivoted. Ghost speaking twice within 1 week was uncommon. Ghost expressing a perspective was more unusual. She's experiencing hunger. Her siblings overwhelmed. Funds for an educational expedition doesn't resolve that. Sawyer tapped his digits on the surface. What are you proposing? I'm stating we remain present. Not merely our finances. Ourselves. Mama Jo, positioned in the corner with her needlework, acknowledged without raising her gaze. The boy's correct. That child requires more than monetary assistance. She requires individuals. The ballot was complete. Agreement. 2 days elapsed with no indication of her. Ghost convinced himself it was insignificant. However, Thursday afternoon discovered him stationed outside Morrison Middle School anyway. Marley occupied the library stairs alone with an arithmetic textbook appearing older than her existence. She startled when his silhouette covered the document. You're unsuccessful in pre-algebra, he stated, not questioning. Her features reddened. How did you? Did you contact the educational institution? Informed them I was your relative. He positioned himself beside her, removing the textbook from her grasp. You're not unintelligent. You're simply malnourished and exhausted. And nobody's clarifying this properly. Document 37. Demonstrate what you don't comprehend. For 60 minutes, Ghost deconstructed formulas in methods her instructor never had. No irritation, no criticism, simply forbearance that felt unfamiliar and astonishing. When they concluded, he provided her a document with the clubhouse location. Tuesdays and Thursdays. For a clock. Transport your schoolwork. I lack funds to compensate you, Marley murmured. Ghost rose, inserting his palms in his pockets. Didn't request you to. Kendra arrived home Friday evening to discover her residence entrance repaired. The fastener that had remained damaged for half a year, the one their property owner disregarded, was presently sturdy, fresh, shining metal. A message was attached beside it in angular script. You shouldn't need to rest frightened. BR. She remained in the corridor for 10 minutes, access device in palm, a sensation accumulating in her torso that resembled appreciation and humiliation interwoven together. She'd observed the motorcyclists throughout town. Everyone had. You avoided visual engagement. You traversed the roadway. You certainly didn't welcome assistance from individuals who displayed skulls on their backs. However, when she parted the entrance and discovered provision containers on her surface, dairy, grain products, legume spread, fresh produce, items she hadn't possessed resources for, the tears arrived before she could prevent them. Marley surfaced from her sleeping quarters, eyes enlarged. They visited earlier. I didn't permit them entry. Promise. They simply abandoned everything outside. One of them, the large individual with facial hair, he stated. She hesitated, examining her footwear. He stated. No child should need to take chocolate bars because adults disappointed them. Kendra descended into a seat. Marley, what did you accomplish? I lost consciousness at their clubhouse previous Saturday. I didn't inform you since you were already distressed and I didn't desire you to. What? Kendra's tone escalated. You approached a motorcycle organization alone? I was distributing chocolate. I was unaware it was. They assisted me, Kendra. They provided me broth and fruit drink, and they didn't request anything. And presently Ghost is instructing me in arithmetic. And, Ghost. Kendra's tone fractured on the term. He's genuinely pleasant. Reserved. He clarifies concepts so I comprehend them. Kendra compressed her palms against her vision. Their mother had cautioned her about individuals like that. Predators assumed numerous appearances. However would a predator repair her entrance, abandon provisions, and vanish? Her mother's cautions felt remote presently, vacant against the significance of fresh produce she couldn't have obtained for another 14 days Saturday dawn. Chainsaw occupied a position beneath a '67 Mustang when small footwear materialized beside the rolling board. You stated I could assist. He emerged. Marley stood present in aged denim and a garment that actually suited, grasping a tool she'd obtained from his instrument wall. That's a torque tool. You'll damage every fastener in this facility. He rose, cleaning his palms. Your sibling aware you're present? I departed a message. That's not what I inquired. Marley's jawline established. She's performing. She's perpetually performing. And I cannot simply occupy that residence anymore. It's excessively silent. Excessively. Her tone wavered. I require to accomplish something. Please. Chainsaw examined her for an extended period. Observed himself at 12 following his father's departure. That identical frantic requirement to be valuable, to signify something, to not constitute a load. Acceptable however you contact something without inquiring. I'm contacting your sibling personally. Understood. Her expression could have illuminated the complete facility. He assigned her elementary responsibilities. Arranging instruments, sanitizing components, grasping the illumination device. She labored without protesting, posed intelligent inquiries, and didn't recoil at the lubricant or commotion by midday. Chainsaw realized he was clarifying motor elements to her like she was an apprentice, not a child. When Mama Joe materialized with midday nourishment, portions for him, additional everything for Marley, she captured his vision over the girl's crown. She possesses nobody. Mama Joe stated softly while Marley consumed. That sibling's performing her optimal. However, optimal isn't perpetually adequate. Chainsaw acknowledged. Child possesses capability, intelligent palms, quality instincts. She possesses something superior. Mama Joe stated. She possesses us presently. From throughout the facility, Marley expressed amusement at something she uncovered beneath the covering. An avian dwelling positioned behind the filtration component. The sound traveled vibrant and unprotected. Mama Joe expressed pleasure. The girl was commencing to accept it also. October arrived silently. Marley's academic evaluations ascended from deficient to satisfactory. Her features developed fuller. She expressed amusement more. Genuine amusement that resonated through the clubhouse and caused the motorcyclists to exchange observations they feigned weren't occurring. Ghost instruction periods broadened to incorporate Chainsaw instructing her fundamental mechanics and Mama Joe demonstrating how to prepare nourishment beyond instant noodles. Kendra ceased reacting when she observed the motorcycle stationed outside their structure. Commenced expressing gratitude instead of inquiring regarding purpose. The evening Sawyer materialized with a collection of employment applications from establishments that actually compensated respectable salaries. His associations extending more profound than she'd envisioned. She collapsed on her deteriorating furniture and communicated to him about their mother. About the medical invoices that consumed everything. About the remorse of being 23 and scarcely maintaining them sustained. You're not disappointing, Sawyer stated simply. You're enduring. There's a distinction. However, it was the scientific exhibition that transformed everything. Principal Mercer contacted Kendra on a Wednesday afternoon. Miss Torres, I desire to communicate that Marley has been chosen to participate at the State Division. The departure gathering is Friday at 2 o'clock. We'd appreciate for you to participate. Kendra exchanged shifts, obtained a formal jacket from her colleague, and materialized at Morrison Middle School 15 minutes premature. The gymnasium was occupied with guardians grasping devices, instructors coordinating students, proclamations declaring excellence in STEM suspended from the ceiling structures. She located a position in the central section, examining for Marley. What she didn't observe, what nobody observed until they were already present, were the 10 Black Rain participants proceeding through the rear entrance. Mahoney had proposed they omit it. Will alarm individuals. Leather garments in a middle educational institution. Proceed. That's precisely why we're proceeding, Ghost stated. It was the most extensive statement he'd assembled in months. She communicated to Mama Joe we were her relatives. You don't permit relatives to traverse that platform solitary. Therefore they arrived. All of them. Sawyer guided the direction in his leader garment. Ghost's metallic bands captured the artificial illumination. Chainsaw hadn't concerned himself with transforming from the facility, motor lubricant still on his palms. Mama Joe modified her leather garment, digits following the emblem she'd sewn personally. They positioned against the rear partition, limbs folded, eyewear on despite being interior and instructor identified them initially. Mrs. Henderson, 62 years of residential propriety, became pale. She murmured urgently to Assistant Principal Davis, who murmured to protection, who murmured into his communication device. The vitality in the space transformed. Guardians pivoted. Devices ascended, not for their children anymore, however to capture whatever was approaching to occur. Principal Mercer obtained the amplification device, greeting relatives, and presenting the state qualifiers. Individually, students traversed across the platform. Courteous acknowledgement satisfied guardians, the pattern of 100 identical gatherings. Then, Marley Torres, representing Morrison Middle School in Earth Sciences. Marley surfaced from the lateral curtain in an obtained Navy formal jacket that Kendra had compressed that dawn. Her hair was secured back. Her project document was grasped against her torso. She appeared terrified. She traversed the central platform, received her documentation from Principal Mercer, and pivoted to confront the audience. That's when she observed them point 10 motorcyclists, black leather, skull emblems, positioned when everyone else was occupying seats. The gymnasium retained its respiration. Marley became motionless. Her mouth parted. Then her complete features illuminated. Not the courteous expression children provide adults. However, something uncontrolled and unrestrained. Her palm elevated, gesturing frantically, and her tone traveled across the frozen quietness. That's my relatives. She was radiating, indicating, ascending on her toes like the 12-year-old she was finally permitted to be. Ghost elevated 2 digits in recognition. Chainsaw acknowledged. Mama Joe projected her an affectionate gesture. Sawyer's expression was visible even from throughout the gymnasium. The quietness fragmented. Some guardians breathed sharply. Others attracted their children nearer. Mrs. Henderson appeared like she might lose consciousness. However, then, a solitary individual commenced acknowledgement. A father in the initial sequence, markings visible on his forearms, construction garments still on from labor. Then another guardian participated, then a student, then a complete section. The acknowledgement expanded, traveling through the gymnasium in surges until it overwhelmed everything else. Kendra occupied motionless in her position, tears flowing down her features, observing her sibling position elevated on that platform with relatives she never anticipated and couldn't have envisioned. She pivoted to examine the motorcyclists, genuinely examine them, and observed Sawyer capture her vision. He acknowledged once. No statements required. Principal Mercer, recovering rapidly, reclined into the amplification device. Well, I believe it's evident Marley possesses quite the support structure. Let's provide another sequence of acknowledgement for all our relatives today. The motorcyclists didn't relocate, didn't depart. They remained through every remaining designation, every handclasp and uncomfortable photograph occasion. And when the gathering concluded, and relatives surged toward the departures, Marley accelerated. Not to Kendra initially, however to the rear of the gymnasium, projecting herself at Ghost, his upper body tensed. Contact perpetually affected him that method. However his limbs ascended anyway, maintaining her steady. You arrived, she murmured into his garment. Communicated to you, he stated quietly. Relatives materialize. When they finally departed, half the educational institution already possessed their devices activated. That evening, the regional information transmitted the recording, and by Monday dawn, the caption was everywhere. Motorcycle organization positions upward for student at educational institution gathering. The remarks section became a combat zone. Some commended them, others criticized them. However, in Morrison, Missouri, something had transformed. The motorcyclists weren't merely lawbreakers anymore. They were Marley's relatives, and she declared them in front of everyone. The recording expanded overnight. By midweek, it was everywhere, and therefore was an information vehicle. A correspondent from Kansas City materialized outside the clubhouse, recording device operating, inquiries projecting. Sawyer addressed it the method he addressed everything, straightforward and genuine. We didn't accomplish this for public attention, he stated, positioned in the entrance with his limbs folded. We accomplished it since a child required assistance and nobody else was advancing. That's it. However, the correspondent, an intelligent woman designated Angela Chun, wasn't satisfied with brief statements. Mr. Sawyer, there's an understanding that motorcycle organizations are hazardous, unlawful. Yeah, we're aware. He interrupted her. We've perceived it our complete existences. However, you desire to comprehend what's actually hazardous? A 12-year-old losing consciousness from hunger since the structure disappointed her. A 23-year-old laboring herself to fatality since there's no protection network. That's what should be on your information. The conversation transmitted that evening. Then CNN obtained it. Then it was everywhere. The contributions commenced small. $50 present, 100 present. Individuals transmitting funds to the educational institution designated for students like Marley. By the conclusion of the initial week, Morrison Middle School had received more funds than Principal Mercer had accumulated in 15 years of requesting the district. She occupied in her administrative center observing the financial institution statement like it might vanish. She contacted Sawyer. I don't comprehend what to accomplish with this. Commence a resource, he stated. For children who lack resources for expeditions, materials, whatever. Establish it permanent. We'd require supervision. A committee, lawful organization. Then establish it. We'll assist. 2 weeks subsequently, the Morrison Student Opportunity Fund was legitimate. The Educational Institution Board gathering to authorize it was occupied beyond capacity. Guardians who traversed the roadway to avoid the motorcyclists presently clasped their palms. Instructors who'd grasped their possessions more securely when they observed the garments presently inquired how they could volunteer. However, not everyone was persuaded. Councilman Perkins positioned at the platform during community remarks, his features crimson. We're commemorating unlawful individuals, instructing our children that violating the regulation is acceptable provided you accomplish one beneficial action. This is absurdity. Mama Jo elevated from her position in the rear, her seat grinding loud against the surface. At 71, she dominated attention without elevating her tone. You desire to communicate about unlawful individuals. Mama Jo's support device contacted against the surface as she approached the amplification device. My descendant. He was 17 when the substance obtained him. 17. His own father didn't materialize for the burial. However, these individuals, she indicated toward the rear sequence. They buried my boy, occupied with me, maintained my illumination functioning when I couldn't labor. Therefore, don't you challenge position present and communicate to me who the unlawful individuals are. Perkins occupied down without responding. The state scientific exhibition was conducted in Columbia, 3 hours east. Marley's project on soil deterioration and indigenous vegetation restoration wasn't extravagant. No mechanical devices, no detonations. However, it was comprehensive, contemplative, profoundly investigated. She positioned third in her classification. When they summoned her designation, she traversed to the platform in fresh footwear Kendra had been capable to purchase with funds from her fresh occupation. A position at a medical administrative center that Sawyer had associated her to, with advantages and reasonable durations. Marley received the bronze decoration and immediately examined to the audience investigating. They were present. Initial sequence. 6 motorcyclists who'd operated 3 hours on a Tuesday to observe her demonstrate. Ghost provided her an encouraging gesture. Chainsaw produced a sharp sound. Mama Jo contacted her vision with a tissue. However, the genuine triumph arrived after, when an instructor from another educational institution approached Kendra in the stationing area. Your descendant's support structure is extraordinary. She's my sibling, Kendra corrected tenderly. And yes, they are. The instructor provided her a card. I operate a mentorship initiative associating at-risk youth with community volunteers. We could utilize individuals like your relatives, if they're interested. Kendra examined the card. Then at the motorcyclists loading Marley's project panel carefully into Sawyer's vehicle. I'll inquire them, she stated. However, I believe you'll be astonished how many children require precisely what they provide. The subsequent spring, the initial annual Marley's Ride Scholarship gathering occupied the Morrison Middle School gymnasium again. The Black Rain MC accumulated $42,000 through a charitable poker operation that attracted over 300 motorcycles. Regional establishments contributed rewards. The mayor materialized. Marley, presently 13 and flourishing, assisted organizing the occurrence. She displayed a small black rain emblem on her carrying container. Not a complete garment. However, an honorary participant designation that Sawyer had delivered her at a private gathering. She'd expressed tears. Therefore had Ghost, despite he'd reject it perpetually. During the scholarship gathering, Marley positioned at the amplification device to present the recipients. Her tone was stable presently, assured. A year prior, I traversed into a location I was frightened of. I possessed chocolate bars I'd taken and no comprehension what I was accomplishing. She hesitated, locating Ghost in the initial sequence. I departed with individuals who observed me, not my difficulties or what I didn't possess. Simply me. Her tone wavered. These scholarships, they exist since some individuals refused to feign they didn't observe someone descending. And that signifies more than you comprehend. The acknowledgement was explosive. Following the gathering, a fresh student approached Marley, a thin first year with deteriorated footwear and frightened vision, grasping a fundraising document for a debate competition. Marley expressed pleasure. Proceed. I comprehend some individuals you should encounter. Ghost captured Marley's vision as she guided the nervous first year toward the clubhouse entrances. He didn't express pleasure, however acknowledged once. She acknowledged back. No statements necessary. They both comprehended what was approaching to occur. Another child would locate relatives in the final location anyone anticipated. The ripple persisted. Occasionally the individual society fears are the ones with the most substantial hearts. What would you accomplish if you observed someone descending? Would you capture them? Deposit your considerations below. And if the narrative affected you, distribute it with someone. Let's maintain the ripple proceeding. Don't disregard to subscribe to embrace the journey for more narratives that remind us why compassion signifies. Observe you in the subsequent video.